coming to speak to us today. We just kind of wanted to ask you what your experiences have been.
I think there's definitely a culture of normalisation, especially on university campuses, and I know that that's a lot of it's to do with the fact that there's been a big rise in hookup culture.
What's the most important thing for you to come out of all of this?
I think the main thing about this whole the investigation and the whole movement recently with exposing those the culture, especially within male friendship groups and everything, that it's not only just because it mainly happens to women doesn't mean that they shouldn't worry about it too. They'll say, okay, they'll worry about their mom or their sisters and stuff, but they won't treat other girls the same way. It's the whole Madonna whole complex, where as soon as you have sex with her, or think of her in a sexual way, she just doesn't matter. And I think there just needs to be a movement of accountability. What have I done to make women feel uncomfortable? What can I do to make them feel more comfortable? Let me sit down with my female friends and talk about these experiences, and talk to my male friends as well about how they could be better.
These conversations aren't happening enough.
Definitely.
And we know how our female friends will react, because they probably can have a similar story, but it's that kind of need to be able to approach a conversation.
The whole mindset
definitely.
of just people, I suppose, in general.
Literally, because I think it's just because girls are considered girls instead of people. There's instantly that label attached to them of a female, the weaker link, the weaker sex. And even though a lot of that is unconscious bias, it's still there. We just need to look at the language that we use, how we approach these types of topics, and we need to have a lot more conversations. We need to having these types of conversations, just if you're talking about previous relationships or anything, we need to be having these conversations as well. And girls shouldn't be scared about feeling judged if they want to bring it up.
Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It's so brave and so helpful. I just wanted to start with the question, what's your experience that you wanted to chat about today?
The main thing for me at university was in my first year. I joined a sports group, and right from the start there was a guy who I got on quite well with, and we started spending a lot more time together, and we were kind of seeing each other sleeping together inside and outside the club for pretty much the whole of my first year. And it wasn't till I went to Camp America and basically didn't see him for 3 months, and then afterwards I kind of started seeing someone else who is now my boyfriend that I've been with for a while and live with, etc. But it wasn't till I basically was with someone who had very good consent practices and very good communication that I realised how bad it was with this other guy. It was kind of a lot of things where obviously we'd previously had sex that I'd consented to, and he would start trying to do stuff with his hands, and I'd be like, no, I'm not in the mood tonight, but he would just kind of carry on, and I would just let it happen. But then it was also things when I wanted to leave in the morning to go to lectures, he would physically restrain me in a jokey way, and sometimes it would be flirty, and then it gets to the point where I'd be like, no, please, let me get out of bed, and he would still carry on as if it was funny. And I think I kind of thought, oh well, that's flirting, that's how it is, but he would still kind of turn up without warning and essentially guilt trip me into letting him come inside. And after this had all finished, in my second year, I heard that he was basically doing the same thing to another girl in the club. He ended up leaving the uni and dropping out, but there's just quite a few people in the club. There is just this attitude of, I don't know, there's a handful of guys that seem to be preying on the freshers and getting away with it, and it's just seen as like the club culture. And so our current welfare officer is really trying to like do something to change it. I just think that from my experience of hearing other people's stories and from my own experience, I think it seems to be the women that are telling other women not to report it. And whenever I've spoken to guys, they've been the one that's been saying, have you reported it? I'll report it with you. And I don't know why. But it makes me so angry that women tend to be the ones that are doubting their friends, saying that they believe the other guy's story, or they believe them either because they've got a bigger sway in the club or because they're just really good at manipulating people to be on their side. But it seems that there's been a handful of people in the club that have had this sort of behaviour. I think that a lot of people spend so long not talking about it and not feeling like they can report it.
Do you feel like you would feel comfortable in your sports club, like a welfare officer?
I think that from the point of view of like welfare officers, I don't think they really have much power. Like they can do like Welfare Wednesday posts and start the conversation, but they don't have the power to actually say this person is not safe to be in our club. Like I think it should be like mandatory to attend like a in-depth conversation and discussion about consent. And with all the guys being supportive, I genuinely believe that's come from the conversation about sexual assault like in recent years. So it does make a difference.
Yeah.
So to properly look at attitudes surrounding female safety in the university, we thought that we'd talk to people that have been involved in sports societies and look at how they think women are treated. So today I'm going to be speaking to Grace, who's heavily involved in cheerleading, and Ben, who's the welfare secretary for the Hockey Society. And they're going to be telling me a little bit about what it's like to be in a sports society and what they're doing to change attitudes surrounding women. How do you feel that women are treated within your society?
I think we're treated like very well, like because we've got welfare and charity sets, like they know how to like look after us, and we can go to them if we need anything.
So do you feel like when you mix with male societies, do you feel that the attitudes towards women are correct and how they should be?
I think my experience has been okay, because like when we have socials of like the rugby or hockey boys, whatever, they've all been quite respectful towards us, and like no like arguments, stuff that I've witnessed has happened.
So what does your welfare sec do to look after you as women, and how does she look after your safety?
So she like hands out, she just posts and stuff, and like say if anything like happens within cheer, she'll like message you directly, and if you have any issues or anything, you can message her, and then she just checks in on you to like just a catch up.
I think it's really positive that you have those figures within society. Do you think that anything else could be done to improve the way that you're treated as women?
Sometimes cheer's got like, or like sexy or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just like showing that you can be like taken seriously, and when you go to the games, like make sure like no one says anything, like kind of like stand up to yourself, because people could like comment on like the dances and whatever.
And having had a lot of experience socialising with societies that are more predominantly male, how do you feel that they deal with the current issues surrounding women?
Rugby's had like training on like safety, so they are taking it quite seriously because they know like the impacts it's had on people.
What would you want to see changed in the future?
I think some of the themes are a bit like out there. When you go out, like this is like not wearing much sort of thing.
So Ben, you're the welfare secretary for Hockey Society.
That's right, yes.
How do you feel women are treated within your society?
Very lucky at the University of Nottingham that the men's and the women's teams are very mixed.
Yeah.
It's quite a rarity you find a sport with such vast numbers with men's and women's that are so integrated. With that does come equality in that sort of we have prees with women's teams, we play against women's teams, so it's really nice to feel part of a society which is very inclusive in that respect. And certainly within the committee there's a large focus on, it doesn't have to be necessarily women. If there's a fresher who's drunk, or within the men's club or the women's club, the expectation is that you look after that person and you get them home safely as well.
If you could see a change made in the hockey club, in the sports societies in general, in terms of the treatment and the attitude surrounding women, what would that be?
I think also this is the first year that the men's hockey team has had a welfare secretary. So I think already there's a slight shift towards, whereas more of a accepting culture, whereas in the past things that are said go under the radar and no one picks up on them.
So Rugby Minds, they were set up for the Rugby Society, and they kind of wanted to do like an educational programme for the male and the female society members. Do you feel like that's something that hockey would benefit from, or do you feel like they already have that communication?
I mean, I think we do already have that communication, but that's not to say we wouldn't still benefit from an educational programme such as Rugby Minds. I think from what I've seen, they're doing some fantastic work, raising awareness, and we could definitely benefit from copying that.
What do you think is the way forward for the treatment of women within sports? Do you think that there's more to be done?
Certainly, I think for me it stems from education from an early age, and sort of getting rid of that mob mentality, and the lad culture is also a big issue. Sometimes it is taken too far, especially in the presence of women, and making women feel uncomfortable, etc. And that goes too far.